Good morning, beloved child of God. As the light of a new day gently rises over the horizon, I invite you to begin this moment, not with noise but with stillness, not with anxiety but with adoration. Before the world calls your name, let heaven hear your voice. You did not wake up by accident today. Grace carried you through the night, and grace welcomes you into this sacred space of prayer. There is something powerful that happens when you begin your day with prayer. It's not just a routine, it's a spiritual alignment, placing your heart before the throne of God before anything else tries to sit on it. When you choose to pray first, you're choosing to trust God above the chaos. Before the calendar, before the notifications, before the worry, the posture of your morning determines the peace of your day. Matthew 6:6 reminds us, "But when you pray, go into your room, close the door and pray to your Father, who is unseen. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you." This is the secret place right here, right now, where heaven leans close and the Father listens. There is no better way to start than in the arms of the one who already knows how your day will unfold. You don't need to have the perfect words, you just need a heart that's willing to surrender. Today, I want to take you to the story of a woman who understood what it meant to pray first, before answers, before blessings, before clarity. Her name was Hannah. In 1 Samuel 1, we read that Hannah was barren, misunderstood, and deeply distressed. But instead of complaining to people, she poured out her soul to God. Hannah didn't wait until things got better. She prayed when it still hurt. She didn't run to others for validation. She went to the altar in tears. Her prayer wasn't poetic, but it was powerful. In the temple, she whispered her pain, and God heard her whisper. This is the kind of prayer that changes everything. Not because it changes God, but because it changes you. It calms the storm inside while the world remains the same outside. It builds endurance, transforms your mindset, and opens your eyes to a God who listens even when everyone else walks away. Hannah left the temple still without a child, but something inside her had already shifted. That is what happens when you pray first. You may not walk away with what you asked for, but you walk away with peace. And often peace is the first miracle. When your soul is anchored, your perspective changes. Prayer doesn't always remove the problem, but it will always invite the presence of the one who can. You feel overwhelmed, unsure of what's next. But God is whispering, "Start with me. Don't rush. Don't skip this. Leave a comment and say, 'Lord, I choose to pray first.' Tell us, what do you need prayer for today? Let us pray with you. And as you do, remember this. You didn't stumble on this prayer by accident. Tell us how long it took you to stop scrolling and listen. Was it 2 minutes? 10? That's the moment God was waiting for. Keep showing up. Make this holy moment your new rhythm. Hannah's story didn't end in the waiting. Because she prayed first, she gave birth to Samuel. Not just a child, but a prophet who would anoint kings. That's the power of consistent, heartfelt prayer. God not only answered, He exceeded her hope. So let this be your beginning today. Don't start with fear. Start with faith. Don't reach for control. Reach for Christ. And as your first words rise in prayer, know that heaven is already moving in response. Prayer is not about performance. It's about presence. It's the place where your most honest thoughts meet God's most perfect peace. You don't have to pretend, perform, or impress. You just have to be. And in that sacred stillness, God begins to shape what you thought was broken. Hannah's prayer wasn't long, but it was full of tears. She was misunderstood by Eli the priest, even accused of being drunk. But she didn't let that stop her. People may not always understand your prayers, but God does. He reads the language of your heart even when no words come out. There's a power in being consistent when you feel empty, a strength in praying while you're still waiting. God isn't moved by noise. He's moved by faith. And faith often whispers when the world is screaming. You may be in a Hannah season, pouring your heart out in secret, aching for an answer that hasn't yet come. But just like Hannah, your breakthrough begins in prayer. Not when things look different, but when you decide to respond differently. Heaven moves at the sound of your surrender. The moment Hannah left the temple, her face changed. The Bible says her face was no longer sad, That's the miracle of praying first. It lifts your countenance before it changes your circumstances. You start walking in peace, even when you haven't received the answer. Don't wait until the storm ends to pray. Don't wait until you understand everything to believe. Start with surrender. Start with worship. Start with, Lord, I trust you. That simple decision opens the door to God's divine strategy for your day and your life. When you kneel in the morning, you rise in power. That's not just a spiritual phrase, it's a heavenly reality. You are seated with Christ in heavenly places, and when you pray, you align your mind and spirit with that truth. Nothing is the same after prayer. So today I want to ask you, what are you carrying that needs to be laid down in prayer? What burden have you picked up before kneeling before the Lord? Bring it to Him now, not in fear, but in confidence, knowing He hears, He understands, and He responds. There's no better way to begin this day than by saying, God, you are first. Not my schedule, not my stress, not my goals, but you. And in doing that, you're inviting the Creator of the universe to walk into your day with power, peace, and purpose. There's something holy about the silence that follows prayer, the kind that calms your heartbeat and steadies your soul. It's in that quiet space where God begins to whisper direction, comfort, and strength. You may not hear an audible voice, but peace itself becomes your answer. The storm around you might remain, but the storm within begins to still. Hannah knew what it meant to wait, not with bitterness, but with surrender. She didn't demand, she trusted. She didn't threaten to walk away. She offered her deepest desire as a sacrifice to the Lord. That kind of surrender shakes heaven and unlocks blessings that human effort can never produce. So often we pray with one hand holding tight to our will. But the kind of prayer that changes everything is the one that lets go completely. Not my will but yours be done isn't just a phrase, it's the doorway to divine alignment. God can do more with your surrender than you can with your striving. When you choose to pray first, you're declaring, I don't run this day, God does. You're stepping out of fear and into faith. You're making space for the supernatural. You're creating room for God to fight battles you haven't even seen yet. Don't let prayer become your last resort. Let it be your first response. Let it be the place where confusion is exchanged for clarity, where weakness is traded for strength, where you remember that you are never alone. Sometimes God doesn't answer your prayer by removing the struggle. Sometimes He changes you in the middle of it. He grows your faith in the waiting. He refines your heart in the fire. He strengthens your soul in the silence. Prayer is not just a lifeline, it's a lifestyle. It's not an emergency exit. It's a daily entrance into God's peace. It's where your thoughts align with truth and your fears bow to perfect love. And that kind of life begins with just one choice. Pray first. When you wake up in the morning and your first words are, Lord, I'm here, you are building a foundation that nothing can shake. You are giving God permission to guide, protect, and bless everything that follows. You are setting your mind on what is eternal instead of what is urgent, and you are shifting your atmosphere from chaos to calm. The devil trembles when a believer chooses to pray first, because it means you are no longer reacting to life. You are commanding it through the Spirit. You are no longer fighting in the flesh. You are standing in victory through prayer. You are no longer lost. You are Remember this. Hannah didn't just receive what she asked for, she gave it back to God. That's the beauty of real answered prayer. It leads to deeper devotion. She named her son Samuel, saying, because I asked the Lord for him. She didn't forget the God who answered, she honored him. That is the kind of legacy that starts with one prayer. A quiet morning, a bowed head, a surrendered heart, and from that sacred place, lives are changed. So today, don't underestimate what happens when you kneel. Don't doubt the power of a whispered yes. Don't rush past this moment trying to fix everything on your own. The presence of God is here, and He's waiting for you to begin again. Open your hands, take a deep breath, let go of the pressure to do it all, and just say, Lord, I'm here. I choose you first. There is a deep, quiet strength that grows in the soul of the one who chooses to pray before reacting. It doesn't look flashy, it doesn't sound loud, but it moves heaven and changes the course of your day in ways you cannot yet see. When you put prayer first, you're saying, Lord, I don't want to carry this day alone. You're admitting that you need more than motivation. You need the Spirit of the living God to go before you. You're inviting divine help into earthly struggles. And that invitation never goes unanswered. Prayer opens the window to heaven and lets in light when the world feels dim. It turns your eyes from what's urgent to what's eternal. It shifts your focus from fear to faith. It reminds you who you belong to and who is truly in control. Hannah's example reminds us that God hears even our silent cries. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Yet God heard every word. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She was trying to reach God. And that's all prayer truly is. Reaching for the one who's already reaching for you. You don't need to sound strong to be strong in prayer. You don't need perfect words, you need an honest heart. The most powerful prayers are sometimes the quietest ones. Tears are a language heaven understands. When you choose to pray first, you're choosing to fight your battles in the spirit before they ever reach the flesh. You're placing armor on your soul before you face the day. You're asking for heavenly wisdom before earthly conflict, and that preparation will carry you farther than any plan ever could. God never asked for a polished prayer. He asked for a surrendered one, the kind that says, even if nothing changes, I will still trust you. The kind that whispers, I don't have all the answers, but I believe you do. That's when the atmosphere shifts. Not just around you, but within you. Sometimes you don't realize how heavy your heart is until you lay it down. And in the presence of God, even burdens you didn't speak begin to break. His Spirit knows the weight you carry, and He's not asking you to carry it alone. There is no situation too tangled that prayer can't begin to untie it. No grief too deep that prayer can't reach it. No fear too loud that God's peace can't silence it. But the door opens only when you choose to knock. Pray first isn't a rule, it's an invitation. It's a holy reminder that your strength comes from connection, not control. That peace flows from presence, not planning. And that victory often starts with stillness. When you begin your day in prayer, you're not losing time, you're redeeming it. You're not falling behind, you're stepping into alignment. You're not delaying the day, you're preparing for it. Because with God, time given is never time wasted. Hannah's legacy reminds us that private prayers lead to public breakthroughs. What you whisper in desperation may become the very testimony others cling to in their own valley. Don't be discouraged if no one sees what you're doing in secret. God sees, and He rewards what is done in the hidden place. So, beloved, take this moment again today. No matter how many times you've failed or forgotten, come back, kneel again, pray first. Because the God who met Hannah in the temple is waiting to meet you here. Beloved, there is no wasted moment when you choose to pray first. Because every second you spend in God's presence is a seed planted in eternity. The world may not see the tears you shed or the words you whisper, but heaven writes them down like sacred poetry. Your prayers may feel small, but they are weighty in the spirit, echoing louder than your fears. Never underestimate the divine power wrapped in a quiet moment of surrender. When you rise in the morning and say, God, I need you, you're declaring war against the enemy's lies before the day even begins. You're putting on armor before stepping into battle. You're choosing peace over panic and grace over striving. And in that decision, God strengthens you in ways you can't yet measure. Sometimes the miracle doesn't come in the form of what you asked for. Sometimes it comes in how God transforms you while you wait. You begin to carry the same burdens with less weight. You begin to see people through eyes of compassion instead of frustration. You begin to trust God even when the outcome is uncertain. Prayer trains your soul to stay anchored when everything else feels like it's drifting. It teaches you to breathe differently, not in reaction to stress, but in rhythm with heaven. You don't fall apart as quickly because your soul is tethered to something stronger. That strength doesn't come from effort, it comes from intimacy. Hannah left the temple with nothing in her hands, but something new in her heart. Her body still carried barrenness, but her spirit carried peace. That's what prayer does. It doesn't always change your environment immediately, but it changes your experience of it. The world may stay the same, but you walk through it differently. Beloved, never believe the lie that your prayer is too late or too weak. There is no wrong time to begin again. No such thing as a wasted prayer. Your words are not lost in the wind. They are caught in the hands of a God who cares. Even when you feel distant, the act of reaching out is drawing you closer to Him. There are days when your words will feel dry, and your faith may feel small. But speak anyway, pray anyway, trust anyway, because consistency in prayer is more powerful than emotion in prayer. Prayer doesn't require you to feel strong, it invites you to be real, to come as you are, tired, confused, hopeful, broken, and lay it all before the one who understands every part of you. The miracle often begins not with the answer, but with the courage to keep showing up. And every time you do, heaven opens wider. The devil will do everything in his power to distract you from praying first, because he knows it's your greatest weapon. He knows that a praying believer is a dangerous one, unshaken, spirit-led, and full of divine authority. He doesn't fear your schedule or your plans, he fears your prayers, because your words activate things in the spiritual realm that no earthly force can stop. Let today be another day where you return to the altar of your heart. Build it not with bricks, but with trust. Lay your thoughts upon it like wood ready for the fire of God's presence. And let heaven descend again into the simple offering of your voice. God is not looking for polished prayers. He's looking for faithful hearts. The power isn't in how you say it, but in who you say it to. Even if all you can say today is, "Help me," He hears it, like a symphony. His love interprets what your lips cannot express. So don't wait for the mood to be right or the setting to be perfect. Right here, right now, is enough. God doesn't dwell in fancy words, He dwells in honest surrender, and your heart, yielded in prayer, is the holiest place you'll ever stand. Each time you choose to pray first, you're writing a new story. A story of trust instead of control. A story of worship instead of worry. And a story of miracles birthed in moments no one else sees. There is something sacred about the soul that decides over and over again, "I will pray first, no matter what." That soul has learned that answers may come slowly, but presence comes instantly. The moment you call upon the Lord, He is near, not later, not eventually, but now. Your whisper becomes a holy place, a meeting between heaven and earth. Hannah didn't have certainty, she had sorrow. But even in her sorrow, she showed up before God with everything she had. She didn't wait to feel strong to kneel, she knelt in her weakness and found strength she never knew was waiting. That is the invitation we all carry. Come as you are and let Him carry the rest. Too often we think we must clean ourselves up before coming to God, when He simply says, "Come," not with rehearsed words or polished faith, but with a heart wide open. He meets you in the rawness of your emotions, in the mess of your thoughts, in the unfinished places, and He brings peace where your strength runs out. When you pray first, you stop reacting to life and start responding with spirit. You no longer wake up and check your worries. You wake up and check in with your King. You no longer rehearse your fear. You release it, and that one change alters the course of your entire day. God is not burdened by your repetition. He is honored by your consistency. He does not grow weary of your asking. He delights in your returning. Each time you come back to Him in prayer, He receives you like the father running to meet the prodigal, and even when you've said the same thing 100 times, He still bends to listen. Prayer is not the end of your strength, it's the beginning of His. It's not a last resort, it's the first alignment. You're not weak because you pray often. You're strong because you know where your help comes from. And every whispered prayer echoes into eternity with divine power. There are things in your life that will only shift when you decide to stop striving and start surrendering. Your breakthrough won't come by worry, planning, or control. It will come by humility, and humility begins on your knees. Not as an act of defeat, but as a declaration of trust. When Hannah prayed, she wasn't only asking for a child, she was surrendering her future. She was saying, "Lord, if you bless me, I'll give it all back to you." And that, beloved, is the essence of a prayer that changes everything. A heart fully yielded, a heart that trusts not only in the answer but in the one who gives it. Sometimes God delays the answer because He's preparing you to carry the weight of the blessing. He is stretching your faith so you won't collapse under the promise. He is growing your roots deep before the fruit appears. And in the delay, He is closer than you think. Don't mistake silence for absence. God is always working behind the scenes. He hears every word, sees every tear, and counts every night you choose to worship through the waiting. He is not ignoring you. He is writing a bigger story, one that will make sense only when you look back and see the grace in every chapter. Your consistency in prayer is not in vain. Every morning you choose to begin with God is a seed sown into the Spirit. And just like Hannah's tears turned into testimony, your prayers will become a harvest, not just for you but for generations after you. So let today be another day you place the day in His hands before it begins. Don't wait for trouble to kneel. Kneel so that when trouble comes, it finds you already anchored. Don't wait for chaos to seek peace. Seek peace first, and chaos will lose its hold. And don't wait for the miracle to pray. Pray, and the miracle will come. Your greatest strength will not be in your plans, but in your prayers. Your greatest clarity will not come from striving, but from surrender. Your greatest breakthrough will not begin with a solution. It will begin with a moment of prayer. And that moment is now. Beloved, the life that begins in prayer becomes a life rooted in peace. When prayer is your first response, fear loses its power before it has a chance to grow. Your mind becomes clearer, your soul more still, and your heart begins to trust again. You're not rushing into your day alone. You're walking with the one who already knows how it ends. Hannah's story reminds us that desperation doesn't disqualify us. It invites us into deeper dependence. Her tears were not signs of weakness, but seeds of transformation. God didn't turn away from her anguish. He leaned in and responded, and He does the same for you every time you kneel. You don't need to have spiritual eloquence, you just need honesty. You don't have to explain everything, you just have to open your heart. Prayer is not a performance for heaven's attention. It's an act of surrender for your own freedom. And when you come sincerely, God always draws near. There is a kind of strength that grows in stillness, the strength that cannot be shaken by circumstances. It is the fruit of hidden prayer, of daily surrender, of choosing to seek Him before seeking solutions. When you pray first, you give God the steering wheel before life's turns appear, and with Him at the helm, no detour is wasted. Don't wait until everything makes sense to pray. Pray because you trust the one who understands what you cannot. Trust is built not on what you see, but on who you know. And prayer is the daily choice to say, Lord, I believe you are enough. Even here, that declaration becomes the anchor for every storm ahead. When Hannah released her request into God's hands, she received something far more valuable than control. She received peace. That's what prayer does. It doesn't always remove the weight, but it lifts it off your shoulders and places it in God. You're no longer carrying life alone. You're walking under His covering, and there is no safer place to be. Your future is shaped by the prayers you choose to pray today. Every whispered plea, every quiet praise, every tearful surrender, they are laying a foundation for miracles you haven't even seen yet. You are not wasting time by praying. You are preparing the soil for a harvest. And the more you pray, the deeper your roots will grow. Some of your greatest breakthroughs won't come through shouting, but through stillness, through being still and knowing He is God, through waiting without panic and trusting without evidence, and through choosing to stay in the secret place when the world tries to pull you away. There is nothing too small or too messy to bring before God. If it matters to you, it matters to Him. He is not afraid of your doubts, not surprised by your pain, and not distant from your grief. He is the God who sees and stays even in the silence. Let your first words in the morning not be complaints or questions, but surrender. Say, Lord, here I am, speak, and I will listen. Say, before I reach for anything else, I reach for you. And in that reaching, you will find the hand of heaven reaching back. Hannah's story didn't end in waiting. It was only just beginning. Her obedience birthed not just a son, but a servant of God, who would anoint kings. Your prayer life isn't just about you, it's about what God will birth through you. And some of the answers will bless others more than you could imagine. So take heart, beloved. Even when you don't feel it, your prayers are building something beautiful. The silence isn't rejection, it's formation. The delay isn't punishment, it's preparation. And the surrender isn't weakness, it's worship. Today, walk in the quiet confidence that you have already made the right choice. You prayed first, and because you did, you walk forward not empty-handed, but full of peace, strength, and promise. You don't have to figure it all out. You just have to stay near to the one who already has. And in that nearness, everything changes. Beloved, when prayer becomes your first language, peace becomes your native atmosphere. You no longer rely on the stability of your circumstances to feel secure. You rely on the faithfulness of your God, who has never lost a battle and never will. That quiet confidence grows in the soil of morning devotion.
Hannah's strength wasn't found in her circumstances.
It was found in her consistency. She kept showing up. She kept praying. She kept trusting, even when the answer felt far away. Your consistency is not small. It is spiritual warfare. Every time you begin your day with prayer, you push back darkness that tried to creep in while you slept. You place yourself under divine covering and welcome heaven's agenda over your own. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. Prayer isn't just a good habit, it's a holy lifeline. It's where your emotions are processed before they become reactions. It's where your burdens are transferred before they become breakdowns. And it's where your spirit is reminded who is truly in control. Even Jesus, the Son of God, rose early to pray. He withdrew before the noise, before the miracles, before the questions, just to be with his Father. What makes us think we can face our day without first doing the same? If Jesus needed solitude with God, how much more do we? There are things you've been trying to carry in your own strength that were never meant to be carried alone. You were created to be dependent, not on people, not on perfection, but on the presence of your Creator. He's not asking you to be flawless. He's asking you to be faithful. And that faithfulness begins when you choose to seek Him first. You don't need to feel worthy to pray. Prayer is what reminds you that you are already loved. You don't need to have it all together. Prayer is what pulls you back into alignment. You don't need to understand everything. Prayer connects you to the one who does. And once connected, you walk differently. Let your mornings be filled, not with haste, but with holiness. Don't rush to the world before you kneel before the Word. Even a few minutes in God's presence can shift the tone of your entire day, because one breath from heaven changes everything. God is not limited by time, so don't think short prayers are less powerful. It's not about the length, it's about the heart. A single cry of "Lord, help me" carries more authority than 1,000 aimless thoughts, because when it's real, it reaches heaven instantly. When you choose to pray first, your day no longer dictates your spirit. Your spirit leads your day. You're not just reacting to situations. You are setting the spiritual tone. You are declaring that Christ is Lord over your calendar, your emotions, and your responsibility. And that declaration has weight. Hannah didn't pray because she was strong. She became strong because she prayed. Her strength came not from the outcome but from the presence she found while she waited. Your strength too will rise not from what you see but from who you see. And when you seek Him first, strength always follows. Do not despise the quiet days of sowing. They will one day become songs of reaping. Do not stop returning to the altar just because the answer hasn't come yet. The answer is often waiting for you on the other side of consistency. And the moment of breakthrough always begins with a heart that says, "I will seek you again." So here you are again, and heaven rejoices. You've come not to perform but to be filled, not to impress but to surrender. And your Father sees, rewards, and walks with you into this day. Beloved, every time you rise and pray first, you place your soul in the hands of perfect peace. You might not know what the day holds, but you're holding the hand of the one who wrote it. That alone is enough to steady your heart. That alone is the victory. You are not behind because you paused to pray. You are ahead, aligned with heaven's pace. This world moves fast, but God moves intentionally. Prayer anchors you to His timing, His wisdom, His way, and in that anchoring, your anxiety begins to dissolve. Sometimes the greatest battles are won before the day even begins. When you choose presence over panic, you may feel the pressure of everything waiting for you, the deadlines, the people, the expectations. But none of that is more important than this moment with the Lord. This moment is where your strength is forged. In the story of Hannah, her heart posture mattered more than her words. She didn't demand, she poured. She didn't argue with heaven, she trusted the unseen. And that posture of humility drew the attention of God. The same is true for you. You don't need the right phrasing. You need a surrendered spirit. God responds not to performance, but to posture. And when you bow low, He lifts you high. Let your mornings be marked by worship, not worry. Begin not with a scroll through the world's noise, but a reach toward God's voice. Let praise be the first breath you offer. Let thanksgiving be your rhythm, before anything else sets your pace. Your first few words with God can define the entire atmosphere around you. When you say, "God, I need you today," you are building a shield no enemy can penetrate. When you declare, "Lord, I trust you," you are planting seeds of peace in every part of your day. And when you whisper, "Be with me," He answers, "I never left." So many of life's regrets come from reacting before praying. But peace comes when you pray before choosing, before answering, before responding. Prayer clears the fog. Prayer makes room for discernment. The Holy Spirit desires to be your first counselor, not your backup plan. He wants to walk with you into every decision, every room, every conversation. When you pray first, you're not just being spiritual, you're being wise. You're stepping into divine strategy. There are breakthroughs that won't come by working harder, but by worshiping deeper. There are answers that won't arrive through planning, but through pausing. And there is clarity that comes only when you sit still before the Lord. This is not weakness. This is supernatural strength. Do not let shame tell you that you've missed your chance. Because you didn't pray yesterday. Today is here, and God's arms are open. You don't need a perfect record. You need a present surrender. And that's exactly what you're offering now. You may feel tired, distracted, or unworthy, but the invitation to pray remains. Because prayer isn't earned, it's given. It's the inheritance of every child of God. And it's through prayer that you remember who you are and whose you are. So come again just as you are. The throne of grace is not closed. The Father is not distant, and His mercies are new this morning, perfectly timed for your return. Beloved, don't underestimate what happens when you begin with God. The stillness you enter is not emptiness. It is filled with divine purpose. It is the sacred space where your soul touches eternity. And in that space, you are no longer overwhelmed. You are held. When Hannah prayed, no one applauded. No one saw the miracle happening in the silence. But God did. Heaven always notices what earth ignores. There are times when your prayers won't be loud, but they will be loaded with faith. A whisper with faith carries more power than a shout with doubt. Because God does not measure volume, He measures heart posture. And when your heart bows low, heaven bends close. You are not invisible to the one who formed you. He sees your morning rituals, your whispered gratitude, your hidden tears. He sees you choosing prayer, even when your heart feels heavy. And He rewards those who seek Him in secret. Prayer is not your last resort. It is your most powerful weapon. When you pray, you activate heaven's resources over your earthly needs. You align your emotions with God's eternal truth, and you walk into the day wearing peace like armor. You don't need to impress God. You just need to invite Him. He's not looking for polished words, but surrendered hearts. He's not moved by your perfection. He's moved by your presence. And when you show up, He draws near. Start each day saying, "God, I give this to you," before it begins. That single act of surrender changes how you react, how you think, how you live. You may not feel different in the moment, but you're building spiritual muscle. You're shaping a life led by peace, not panic. Let this become your rhythm. Pause, pray, proceed. Before the phone, the news, the noise, pause. Before the worry creeps in, pray. Before anything else sets the tone, proceed in peace. Hannah prayed, and her heart changed before her situation did. She worshipped before she was pregnant. She gave thanks before she had evidence. That is the kind of faith prayer produces. Some of you are in the same space, praising before the promise, weeping while believing, hoping in the hallway. And God is not asking you to understand the outcome. He is asking you to trust Him with the process. And that trust grows strongest when prayer comes first. There is no shame in starting again. Each morning is a divine invitation to return, to reset, to reconnect. Your spiritual rhythm is not built in a single moment. It's built through steady return, and every return to prayer deepens your roots. You are not behind, you are being built. You are not late, you are being led. God is not disappointed with your struggle. He's present in your surrender. And every prayer, no matter how small, matters to Him. Today, walk forward in that quiet assurance. The God you prayed to this morning walks beside you now. He holds what you cannot carry, sees what you cannot change, and prepares what you cannot yet imagine. Because you prayed first, and that changed everything. There is a holy strength rising in you each time you choose to begin with God. You may not feel it instantly, but it's growing beneath the surface. Like roots deepening before the tree bears fruit, your spirit is being fortified in the unseen. And one day, the harvest will speak of the mornings you chose prayer over panic. Your day doesn't need to begin with control. It needs to begin with surrender. Surrender is not weakness. It's the wisdom of letting God lead. When you give Him your first moments, you're giving Him access to shape the rest. And nothing is safer than a day shaped by the hands of the Father. When Hannah walked away from the temple, her face was no longer downcast. She didn't have the answer in her hands, but she had peace in her heart. Because peace isn't what happens when the storm ends. It's what happens when God enters. And He always enters where He's invited. The world teaches you to start with effort, but heaven teaches you to start with stillness. That's where your clarity comes from, not from figuring everything out, but from being still in His presence. That stillness births discernment. It teaches you to move not from fear, but from faith. God never meant for you to carry every burden before checking in with His Spirit. His shoulders are stronger, His timing is better, and His way is higher than yours will ever be. When you pray first, you train your heart to listen before reacting. You build spiritual reflexes that are slow to anger and quick to grace. You teach your emotions to yield to truth, not trauma, and slowly your soul begins to reflect the calm of Christ. There is a rhythm to walking with God, a quiet cadence of trust. It's not about how fast you move, but how rooted you are. Prayer anchors you to the vine, and in that connection, fruitfulness follows. You do not need to see the answer yet to believe God is working. Your prayers are never wasted. They are stored in heaven's hands, like incense rising. They are remembered, treasured, and answered in perfect time. Because your Father doesn't forget what you whisper to Him. Even now, heaven is moving in response to your faith. You may not feel anything changing, but the spiritual realm is not moved by feelings. It is moved by truth, by faith, and by prayer. And you are walking in all three today. Let this be your sacred habit, to begin every day by bowing your heart. Not because you're trying to be good enough, but because you trust His goodness. Not because you have all the words, but because He knows your heart. And in that daily choice, you become deeply anchored. Hannah teaches us that consistency precedes the breakthrough. She didn't give up after one unanswered prayer. She came again. She poured again, and God in His mercy remembered her. Your Father will remember you too. He sees your faithful mornings, your hidden tears, your daily surrender. He is not unjust to forget your labor of love, and He is preparing a testimony that will echo far beyond this season. So rise again, pray again, surrender again, and trust that heaven is already responding to what your heart has lifted. Each morning you pray, you are not just starting your day, you are starting a spiritual chain reaction. Angels are dispatched, clarity begins to rise, and burdens start to lift. What felt like chaos begins to calm beneath the covering of your surrender. Because when heaven hears your voice, the earth feels your peace. You are not praying into emptiness. You are praying into eternity. Your words do not evaporate. They enter the heart of a God who listens with compassion. Even when you can't feel him, he is near. Even when you stumble over words, he understands the language of your soul. Hannah's story reminds us that the place of weeping can become the place of birthing. Her sorrow didn't disqualify her, it qualified her for divine encounter. Her desperation was not a sign of defeat, but a seed of destiny. And so is yours. The altar you keep returning to in prayer is becoming sacred ground. That ordinary corner where you kneel is drenched with unseen miracles. The quiet chair, the soft whisper, the tears before sunrise, all of it is holy. Because God meets you there again and again. Do not measure the strength of your prayer by emotion or eloquence. Strength is measured by presence, and you showed up. Strength is measured by surrender, and you offered it. That's what moves the heart of heaven. Morning prayer is not just routine, it is warfare. You're pushing back spiritual heaviness that tried to settle over your life. You're breaking patterns that once held you captive. You're declaring, not today, fear, not today, despair. When you begin with God, you declare with your actions that he is more important than your plans. You invite him into your calendar, into your relationships, into your decisions. You say, guide me, Lord, before I even take a step. And he does, because he is faithful. There is power in praying before things happen, not just after. Preventative prayer is like a shield. It guards you from attacks you didn't even see coming. It prepares your spirit to respond in peace when chaos arises. And it reminds you that you are never alone. You might not always feel strong when you pray, but strength is growing. You may wake up groggy, distracted, or discouraged, but your consistency is carving a path for miracles. You are becoming deeply rooted in the presence of God, and nothing can uproot what is planted in him. Let prayer become the way you breathe, not the way you beg. Let it be natural, constant, unforced, a heart always turning back to him. Not just in trouble, but in trust. Not just in need, but in love. Jesus modeled this when he rose early to pray. He didn't need answers, he needed alignment. He didn't seek power, he sought presence. And in that presence, he found strength for everything the day would hold. You are walking in that same pattern, choosing God above the noise, making time for what matters most, tuning your heart to the frequency of heaven before the world tries to pull it in every direction, and heaven honors that choice. So as you move into the rest of your day, carry this with you. The prayer you started with is still working. The peace you received will walk beside you. The presence you welcomed will not leave your side. And the God who met you in the quiet will guide you in the noise. Every morning you return to prayer. Something in you heals. Not always in dramatic ways, but in quiet shifts. A little more peace, a little less fear. The weight you carried yesterday feels lighter. The noise in your mind begins to fade under the sound of his presence. You may not notice it right away, but your spiritual posture is changing. You're becoming more rooted, more resilient, more aware of God's voice. Worry doesn't grip you as tightly as before. Discouragement no longer speaks the loudest in your soul. This is what happens when you start with God. You begin to reflect his steadiness. Your reactions slow down, your discernment sharpens, your peace deepens. Hannah went from anguish to assurance without her situation changing. All she did was pour her heart out before God and leave it there. No begging, no bargaining, just honest surrender. And that was enough for God to begin the miracle. You too can release what you've been holding and trust that God already knows how to carry it. You don't need all the answers when you know the one who holds them. You don't need to control the outcome when you've entrusted it to the Lord. That's the beauty of beginning your day in prayer. Prayer gives you perspective. It lifts your eyes higher. Instead of waking up consumed by tasks, you wake up connected to truth. Instead of anxiety setting the tone, peace steps in first. That shift is sacred. Some people chase productivity first thing in the morning. You chase presence. Some scroll through noise. You sit in stillness. Some run after the world's urgency. You wait on the Lord's timing. And in that waiting, strength is rising. Isaiah said, They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. That's not poetic language, that's divine promise. Waiting in prayer is not idle. It's holy preparation. It's the training ground for spiritual endurance. There are things in your life that may not move instantly, but your heart is already moving toward healing. There are doors that may remain closed for a time, but your spirit has already stepped into freedom. There are prayers that feel unanswered, yet they are fully heard, and God is working behind the veil. So don't stop coming. Don't stop choosing this sacred rhythm. Don't stop starting your day by turning toward the one who sees it all. Because every single morning you do, heaven takes notice. Jesus said, when you pray, go into your room and close the door. That wasn't just about location, it was about focus, about intimacy, about a heart that prioritizes communion with the Father. Your closed-door moments are building open-door miracles. Your quiet prayers are birthing loud breakthroughs. And your small acts of devotion are stirring the heart of a very big God. That's what always happens when you pray first. There is something eternal unfolding every time you bow your heart in the morning. You're not just entering another day, you're entering the holy presence of the one who already stands in your tomorrow. And in that divine embrace, the weight of your yesterday begins to fall. What felt heavy just moments ago now begins to shift in the light of his nearness. Do not overlook the miracle of beginning your day with God. Even when it feels quiet, it is never empty. The silence is full of his spirit, full of his watching eye, full of answers you didn't even ask for yet. And that presence, steady, gentle, faithful, is preparing you. Hannah didn't leave the temple with evidence in her hand, but she left with peace in her soul. That's what prayer does. It changes the inside before the outside. It quiets the storm in your spirit before it ever touches the circumstances. And sometimes, that's the greater miracle. You don't have to wait for a crisis to come before you return to the altar. Let the altar be your starting place, not your last resort. Let the Lord be your first voice, not your fallback. Because when you start there, you live in rhythm with heaven. Each prayer is like a drop of oil in your spiritual lamp. Some mornings it may feel small, but you're filling a vessel that will shine in your darkest hour. You're storing up light for nights you didn't see coming, and the fire of your faith will not go out. When Jesus prayed early in the morning, he didn't do it out of obligation. He did it out of need. Even the Son of God longed to be with the Father before facing the noise of the world. That tells you everything about what you need to walk through today. You need more presence, not more pressure. Prayer isn't always about asking. Sometimes it's about aligning, about letting your heartbeat match the rhythm of his, about releasing what you were never meant to carry, about listening more than speaking. There are days your prayer will be full of words, and that's beautiful. There are other days it will just be tears, and that's worship too. Sometimes it will be stillness, waiting, breathing, and even that is enough, because he hears it all, sees it all, and honors it all. The world may never applaud your quiet prayers, but heaven never overlooks them. Angels respond to every whisper of faith. Demons flee at the sound of a name spoken in surrender. And your spiritual atmosphere begins to shift. Morning prayer builds endurance, patience, and grace. It teaches your soul how to wait well. It trains your mind to see differently and to choose hope. And over time, it reshapes how you walk through every season. You don't need to have everything figured out when you begin your day. You just need to begin with God. Let that be your holy habit, your sacred rhythm, your unshakable foundation. Because what starts with God will never be wasted. Some of the greatest victories in your life will be traced back to these quiet moments, these sacred mornings, these whispered declarations of trust before the storm ever comes. These are the roots of breakthrough. So today, let prayer not be something you add. Let it be the air you breathe. Let it shape you before the world tries to. Let it speak before the lies can. And in that first light of morning, let your soul remember, God is already here. There's something sacred about those first few moments after you open your eyes. Before the world demands anything, your soul has the chance to reach for the only one who truly matters. And when you choose prayer in that moment, you realign heaven and earth within you. You open the gates for peace to walk in and settle everything before chaos tries. You might not realize how much your mornings shape your life. But in the secret space of prayer, the foundation for your entire day is poured. The tone is set, and your soul stands taller, firmer, stronger, even if everything around you hasn't changed. When Hannah returned day after day, she wasn't just praying, she was building a testimony, a sacred altar of trust, a rhythm of divine relationship. She wasn't waiting passively, she was waiting prayerfully, and that made all the difference. You too are building something eternal every time you show up to pray. You are training your spirit to respond with faith instead of fear. You are shaping your thoughts to echo truth instead of lies. And your atmosphere begins to match the presence you've welcomed in. Prayer is where the heart is most honest and the soul is most seen. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to perform. You just have to come. When Jesus retreated to lonely places to pray, he wasn't escaping, he was recharging. He knew the world would pull at him. He knew the needs would be loud and urgent. So he chose to listen to the quiet first. That quiet is where clarity lives, where decisions become clear, where the fog lifts and the path lights up. Not all at once, but just enough for the next step. That's what prayer gives you, guidance, one moment at a time. There is no wasted moment in the presence of God. Even when you feel dry, even when you don't know what to say, your consistency carries power. Your stillness carries weight. Your longing carries invitation. He is not measuring the eloquence of your words, but the posture of your heart. He sees you waking up early. He sees you choosing faith instead of fear, and he is responding. The enemy tries hardest to distract you when you're closest to your breakthrough. That's why morning battles feel heavy sometimes. But don't be fooled, the wait is proof that something powerful is near. And prayer is how you push through it. Every time you pray, you're planting seeds you may not see for months, even years. But one day you'll look back and realize that what you have was born from moments like these. Silent, faithful, ordinary mornings, carved out in reverence. Let this be your lifestyle, not your emergency call. Let this be your rhythm, not your rare retreat. Let this be how you breathe, not how you beg. Because when prayer becomes a way of life, peace becomes your atmosphere. There is something beautiful about giving God the beginning, not the leftovers. When you place him first, everything else begins to align in its proper order. Your heart becomes uncluttered, your vision becomes clearer, and your day begins with purpose, not panic. This is what it means to seek the kingdom first, to let heaven lead the way. Prayer is not just communication, it is transformation. The more you dwell in his presence, the more you become like him. His gentleness begins to soften your responses. His wisdom begins to sharpen your discernment. You were never meant to carry the day on your own strength. Each sunrise is not a demand to perform, but an invitation to rest in him. He doesn't ask you to conquer the world. He asks you to walk with him through it. And when you walk with him, peace walks with you. There is power in starting the day before the noise arrives. Before the notifications, the demands, the distractions, there is stillness waiting for you. And in that stillness, the Spirit begins to whisper. He reminds you of who you are and whose you are. Hannah teaches us that breakthrough often begins in the broken place. Her prayer was not polished. It was poured out, and it was that honest offering that reached heaven's ear. So let your morning prayer be real, not rehearsed. Some days you will feel the fire of his presence. Other days you will simply believe by faith that he is near. But every prayer builds something eternal. Every whisper strengthens your spiritual foundation. And nothing offered to God is ever wasted. You are not behind, you are being prepared. You are not forgotten, you are being refined. You are not stuck, you are being still so God can move. And sometimes stillness is the greatest act of faith. The enemy wants your day to begin in chaos, so your spirit stays unsettled. But when you choose prayer, you disarm that plan. You realign yourself with divine rhythm, and your peace becomes a weapon. Do not despise the days when prayer feels small. Small seeds grow into mighty trees. Small prayers open great doors, and a whispered "Lord, I need you" can unlock rivers of grace. Let prayer become the place where you release what you cannot control. The place where you trade fear for faith. The place where your tears water the soil of breakthrough. The place where your silence still speaks to God. You don't need to pray perfect words. You just need to show up with an open heart. God reads the language of surrender better than any sentence you could form. He hears the ache behind your pause. He holds the meaning behind every sigh. There is strength in your consistency, the kind of strength that doesn't shout but stands, the kind that doesn't panic but prays, the kind that walks into the day already covered. Jesus often withdrew to quiet places, not because he was weak but because he was wise. If the Son of God needed morning prayer, how much more do we? His strength came from stillness, and that same stillness is offered to you. So wake again tomorrow, not with pressure, but with purpose, not with fear, but with faith, not with rush, but with reverence. And let your first thought be, God, I choose you first. The morning holds a unique silence, not empty, but expectant. It's in that silence where heaven leans closest to hear your whisper. When you speak his name before the world speaks its noise, you claim the atmosphere for peace. You invite clarity before confusion ever has a chance. Do not underestimate the power of this quiet consistency. You are not just praying, you are building a well your soul can draw from. On days when you feel dry, this is the living water you've stored, and the Lord honors what is built in secret. Hannah could have walked away when years passed, with no answer. She could have shut down her spirit and numbed her desire. But instead, she kept returning, not to demand but to dwell. And in that devotion, her destiny awake. You may not see what's changing yet, but God is already shaping something new within you. The soil of your heart is becoming good ground through surrender. Roots of faith are growing deeper each morning. You begin with him, and that root system will outlast the storms to come. He is teaching you the difference between striving and surrender. One leaves you tired, the other leaves you transformed. Striving demands your strength, surrender invites his, and when he moves, it is always in perfect peace. You don't need loud prayers to move heaven, just honest ones. The prayers that say, God, I'm here again, carry more weight than you know, because faith is not measured in volume, but in return. And you keep returning. Let your mornings be a resting place, not a race. Let your soul settle before it sets out. Let your thoughts bow before they begin to lead. This is how you remain led by the Spirit. There are blessings forming in the waiting, miracles growing beneath the surface, answers that will find you not because you chased them, but because you sought him. And in seeking him, you found everything your heart was truly crying for. You were never meant to walk into your day alone. Prayer is the act of taking God by the hand before you take a single step. It's where fear loosens and courage rises. It's where heaven reminds you who you are. The enemy trembles when you begin your day in the presence of God. He knows your soul is being fortified with truth and anchored in light. He cannot stand in the place where prayer has already gone, and your altar is now a battlefield of victory. Let no distraction steal this moment. Let no urgency push aside this peace. There is nothing more important than being still with the one who holds time itself, and he's been waiting for you since the first light broke over your window. So stay here a little longer, breathe deeply, listen quietly, and let the nearness of God wrap around your heart like a holy covering. Every time you choose to begin with God, you place eternity before urgency. You remind your soul that time spent in his presence is never lost. It becomes the anchor in your storm, the compass in your confusion, the light when the day feels dark, and slowly it reshapes your entire atmosphere. There are moments in life when everything feels loud. The chaos, the needs, the endless decisions. But when you pray first, you create a sacred stillness. You invite heaven to speak before the world gets its turn. And that divine pause can change the course of everything. Prayer is not a checkbox, it's a doorway. It's the opening of your soul to something greater, something wiser, something deeply holy. It's where your burdens are exchanged for peace, and where your weakness becomes the ground for God's strength. Like Hannah, your tears are not forgotten. God is collecting them in his bottle, preserving every cry, every silent ache, every wordless groan. He does not just see you, He understands you, and He is preparing something far greater than you imagined. There is no prayer too small for God's heart. He does not measure your faith by volume, but by surrender. When you offer Him the little you have, He multiplies it. And what you thought was a whisper becomes a declaration in the heavens. Each morning prayer is a seed, and while seeds take time, they always carry life. With every day you water them, something invisible begins to grow. And one day fruit will bloom where no one but God saw you sow. You may not see what's shifting, but the spiritual realm is never still when faith is present. The moment you choose worship over worry, something breaks in the unseen. The moment you open your hands in trust, angels are dispatched to war on your behalf. Because prayer is not passive, it is power in its purest form. Jesus often slipped away early to pray. He didn't need to be seen by others. He needed to be seen by the Father. His strength came not from visibility but from intimacy. And He invites you into that same sacred pattern. Let your mornings be filled with the aroma of God's presence. Let His peace cover you like a blanket before the world wakes up. Let His word be the first voice that touches your heart, and let your spirit breathe before your body ever move. You don't need perfect words, you just need an open heart. You don't need long prayers, just honest ones. God is not waiting for performance, He's waiting for presence. And when you come as you are, heaven draws near. Sometimes the most powerful part of prayer is not what you say, but how you listen. The still small voice may come in the silence after the tears. It may come in the peace that follows your surrender, and that peace will carry you farther than any plan ever could. The early moments of the day are like soft clay. What you pour into them determines what will take shape. If you pour in fear, the day hardens with anxiety. But if you pour in prayer, it molds into peace. So don't rush away too soon. Don't dismiss the quiet just because it feels unfamiliar. That quiet is holy, and that space is where God loves to meet you most. Let your mornings be your offering. Let them speak of your hunger for more of Him. Let them rise like incense from your heart to His. And know this: He is always listening. Every morning you choose to pray first. You're choosing to let heaven realign what earth tried to scatter. You're turning chaos into calm before the day even begins. You're choosing clarity over confusion, peace over pressure, presence over panic. And this quiet act of faith is shifting your entire day's foundation. The most powerful people are not always the loudest or the busiest. They are the ones who know how to kneel. They are the ones who let God guide the beginning, before their voice ever enters the room. Because wisdom doesn't come from rushing. It comes from resting in Him first. And your prayer life is proof that you understand this holy truth. God hears the whispers you speak before your coffee is even cooled. He meets you in the stillness before the notifications start. And in those sacred first moments, He gives you strength for the unseen battles ahead. That strength is not loud, but it is unbreakable. Hannah didn't let disappointment keep her from the altar. Even with a broken heart and unanswered prayers, she returned. And in that return, heaven responded. Her story was changed, not in the shouting, but in the surrender. Your story is being changed too. Each morning, your surrender is writing a new chapter. You're not starting your day trying to control the outcome. You're starting by trusting the author, and the one who writes your story never misses a single detail. The Lord loves when you begin your day by seeking Him. That early devotion becomes a shield around your spirit. It becomes a filter through which you see everything else. And it reminds you that no matter what comes, your soul is anchored. Every time you start in prayer, you silence the enemy's voice a little more. Lies begin to unravel. Fear begins to lose its grip, and truth takes its rightful place again. This is how spiritual maturity grows, not through sudden leaps, but through steady beginnings, through consistency when no one's watching, through trust before answers appear, through kneeling before standing. Jesus rose early, not just to pray but to commune with the Father. Before any miracle, before any sermon, before the crowds, He prioritized presence. He showed us the blueprint to begin in stillness, so we can walk in power. and you are following that same divine pattern. The world will always try to rush you, distract you, pull you into urgency, but prayer teaches you to pause, to respond instead of react, to remain instead of retreat. Some days you may not feel like praying first, but that's when it matters most. On those days, even your weakest prayer carries weight. Even your silence becomes sacred when offered in faith. And even your sigh is heard as a song in heaven. Let this be your rhythm, to begin every sunrise by lifting your eyes. To start not with your to-do list, but with His truth. To move not in worry but in worship. And to know that your first breath belongs to the one who gave it. So today, rise again not in your own strength, but in His. Let your knees hit the ground before your feet hit the floor. Let your heart bow before your day begins. And know that heaven leans in every single time. The mornings you rise and pray are not forgotten by heaven. They are recorded with reverence. Every whisper, every sigh, every quiet moment before God is written into the story of your faith. You may feel unseen by the world, but you are deeply known by the one who formed you, and He delights in the sound of your seeking. There is strength building in the hidden spaces of your life. Not the kind the world praises, but the kind that keeps you standing when everything tries to pull you down. The kind of strength that doesn't shout but endures, and it is formed every time you return to the altar of surrender. Hannah's breakthrough didn't come overnight, but she never stopped returning. She didn't allow delay to turn into despair. Instead, she let her pain become her offering. And God, who saw it all, answered in His perfect time. You are not wasting your time when you choose prayer before pressure. You are investing in something that cannot be shaken. You are building a foundation that won't crack when the storms roll in. And that is the wisdom of heaven. Each time you bow your head, you are lifting your life. You are declaring, I trust you more than I trust myself. That is not weakness. That is worship. That is the soil where miracles grow. Sometimes the transformation happens subtly. A little more patience, a little more peace. Other times it breaks in like lightning, a sudden shift, a door swinging open. But either way, it is the same God at work, and He is never late. Prayer is not a formula, it's a friendship. It is not about impressing God, it's about inviting Him. It's about saying, I want you in every part of my life, not just the easy ones. And when you do, He comes. Let your mornings be marked by grace, not guilt. Don't come to impress, come to connect. Don't come with perfection, come with honesty. That's all God ever asked for. When Jesus rose early to pray, He was showing us what it means to prioritize the presence of the Father. Even in the middle of His mission, He still made space. Even with crowds waiting, He chose communion over chaos. And He was never rushed, only ready. You are being prepared through these quiet choices. You are being molded by every moment of worship. You are being strengthened by every time you return to His feet. And one day you will look back and see that prayer shaped you more than any plan ever did. Don't underestimate what happens when you give God the first. It blesses the middle, it sanctifies the end, and it protects everything in between. Your mornings are becoming sacred altars, not because of where you are, but because of who meets you there. That same God who met Hannah in the temple is meeting you now, and He has not forgotten your cry. So take heart today. Walk with quiet confidence. Trust the one who sees in secret and rewards in fullness. And never stop beginning with Him. Sometimes the greatest miracle is not what changes around you, it's what softens within you. Morning by morning, your heart becomes less rigid, more open, more teachable. God isn't just answering your prayers, He's reshaping your perspective, and that internal shift is preparing you for everything you've been asking for. The enemy cannot comprehend the strength found in stillness. When you pause to pray, you are resisting the pull of anxiety and rushing. You are declaring with your silence that God is in control, and that declaration shakes spiritual ground more than your loudest cry ever could. Each sunrise brings a new mercy, and each mercy brings a new invitation. Come again, sit again, whisper His name again. Even if yesterday felt dry, Jesus often withdrew to lonely places to pray. That wasn't escape, That was engagement with the source. And if he, being divine, sought constant connection, how much more must we? Prayer isn't a ritual for the weak. It is the rhythm of the strong. You do not have to pretend in the presence of God. There is no script you must follow. Come as you are, raw, tired, uncertain, and he will meet you there. Because the throne of grace was built for the honest heart. There is something powerful about consistency when everything else in life feels chaotic. Your routine may break, people may disappoint, plans may shift, but this sacred moment stays. This act of beginning with God steadies your soul like a lighthouse in stormy seas, and every day the light draws you back. Let your prayers not just ask, let them adore, not just plead, but praise. Worship can be silent tears or lifted hands or quiet gratitude, whispered in your chest, and God, who sees the heart, receives it all as holy. You are becoming more like Jesus each time you stop to pray. Slowly, patiently, invisibly, the Spirit molds you. You start to respond instead of react, to forgive faster, to listen longer. These are the fruits growing from the roots of devotion. Hannah didn't get her answer in the way or time she expected, but she got something better. She got a legacy, a story, a song. God never wastes the long wait of the faithful, and he is not wasting yours. So lift your eyes again, even if yesterday was hard. Kneel again, even if your faith feels small. Speak again, even if the words come out broken. Because prayer doesn't require perfection, only presence. There is no shame in coming back to God again and again. He never tires of your voice. He never grows weary of your repetition. And each return deepens your connection to the one who never left. The world may define success by speed, by volume, by results. But the kingdom defines it by faithfulness, by coming daily, regardless of outcome, by showing up when no one sees. You have shown up today, and that choice has eternal weight. God is not just listening, he is honoring. Heaven is moving in response to the rhythm of your surrender. When you begin your day with prayer, you begin it with purpose, no matter how scattered your mind may feel. God isn't measuring your perfection. He's looking at your willingness to return to him. The morning may be heavy with unspoken worries, but his Spirit knows exactly how to lift them without a word. The peace of God doesn't require everything around you to change. It requires your heart to rest in his presence. And once your heart rests, your steps become steady. Even if you wake up unsure of what to pray, your sighs are sacred. The Lord understands every ache, every breath, every pause that carries pain or hope. Your prayer doesn't need fancy words, it just needs your honesty. And in that honesty, God pours out comfort that no human voice could give. He surrounds your weakness with his strength and binds your soul with his love. Jesus knew the power of withdrawing to quiet places, not because he was weak, but because he was wise. He showed us that power flows from connection, not control. That strength is birthed in surrender, not strategy. So when you rise to meet God before you meet the world, you are following in divine footsteps, and heaven leans close when you do. Do not underestimate what happens in the first moments you offer to God. They may feel simple, but they are sacred. The enemy knows that if he can steal your mornings, he can shake your foundation. That's why choosing prayer isn't just devotion, it's protection. And every single day you choose God first, you reclaim holy ground. Even now, heaven remembers every morning you came, despite the wait. You came when you didn't feel like it, when no one else saw, when your soul was barely holding on. And God took your faith and stored it like treasure. He saw the faithfulness behind the fatigue, and he's preparing a reward that far outweighs what you've poured out. Let the Holy Spirit remind you that your prayers are not small things. They are holy invitations for God to move in places you cannot reach. They are quiet declarations of faith, even when your circumstances seem loud with fear. They are steps of obedience that draw heaven's attention, and each one is etched into eternity. Hannah's example is a reminder that breakthrough doesn't come from being strong, it comes from being surrendered. She prayed in silence, weeping, and still God heard. She left the altar not with an answer in hand, but with peace in her soul. And that peace was the first evidence that God had received her cry. You are walking in that same peace today. Some mornings, prayer will feel like a holy fire burning with passion and power. Other mornings, it will feel like a quiet ember, barely flickering. But either way, God is present. Either way, the Spirit is interceding. And either way, the enemy has already lost access to your day. This daily devotion is doing more than you think. It's shaping how you handle pain, how you respond to conflict, how you speak to yourself. It's preparing you for moments you don't even know are coming. And it's creating a history with God that cannot be shaken. You are building spiritual muscle, and it shows in your peace. Let nothing distract you from the altar. Not the rush of time, the noise of social media, or the burden of to-do lists. Let this be your sacred pause before the day unfolds. Let this be where you draw strength before the world demands anything from you, because what you gain here will carry you everywhere else. God delights in this offering, your first breath, your quiet moment, your open heart. He leans in, listening to your spirit even when your words falter. He wraps you in mercy even when you don't ask for it out loud. And He walks with you from that moment forward. Your whole day shifts when you start with Him. So begin again tomorrow just like you did today. Whether tired or joyful, anxious or expectant, just begin. God doesn't require perfection, only presence. And if you keep coming, He will keep filling. He never runs out of grace for those who show up at His feet. Each morning that you kneel in prayer, heaven draws near to your breath. The veil thins between time and eternity, between earth and the realm where angels are listening. You are not just reciting words, you are stepping into the inner courts of the King. There God receives your voice not with judgment, but with mercy. And with every whispered, "Lord, I need you," the heavens shift. God remembers your early prayers, the ones you spoke when no one else knew you were struggling. He treasures the tears no one else saw. Even when you felt like nothing changed, the soil of your soul was being prepared. The roots of your spirit were growing deep into divine strength. And now you walk with wisdom that suffering carved into grace. You are not late to your breakthrough. You are right on time with God's plan. The enemy may have told you that your delay is a denial, but the Father is never in a rush. His timing is not cruel, it is perfect. It's building something deeper than a quick fix. It's building trust, and trust will carry you farther than anything comfort can offer. When you begin your day in prayer, you align with the heart of heaven. You surrender your need to control, and instead, you abide in the One who controls all things. You give up frantic striving for quiet faith. You trade urgency for intimacy, and that exchange changes the atmosphere of your entire day. The Holy Spirit is drawn to the humble heart, the surrendered soul, the one who rises early not to strive but to seek. He comes softly, like a breeze on still waters. He wraps your weary heart in divine comfort. He reminds you that you're not alone in this fight, and He begins to speak with a clarity only found in the quiet. You don't need a perfect prayer to get heaven's attention, you just need a present heart. You don't need fancy words or flawless theology. You just need honesty, reverence, and surrender. That's what touches the heart of God. And when your heart meets His, mountains begin to move. Some of your deepest healing will come not from answers, but from presence. Just being with God heals wounds that words could never reach. Just hearing Him whisper, "I'm with you," is enough to steady you for the day. Because His nearness is not dependent on your perfection, it is anchored in His love. Remember Hannah. Her womb was closed, but her heart was open. That was enough for God to begin the miracle. He did not need her situation to change before He poured out His grace. He only needed her surrender, and her surrender opened a door that her striving never could. The days you feel weakest are the days your prayers matter most. When you still choose to speak to God in the middle of the weariness, heaven takes notice. Your effort is not wasted. It is woven into His plan. Your groans are not empty. They are echoes of the Spirit within you, and your prayers are not forgotten. They are filling bowls in heaven. Don't let your mornings be defined by fear or chaos. Let them be defined by worship. Begin before the day demands anything of you. Begin before the world tries to speak louder than truth. Begin by turning your face toward the One who never sleeps nor slumbers. The enemy would rather you scroll through distractions than sit in silence with God. He knows what's birthed in those moments of sacred stillness. He fears the believer who chooses God first. He trembles at the sound of an early morning prayer, and he flees when light pierces through your darkness. Let your daily beginning with God be your defiance against despair. Let it be your sacred declaration that you are not your anxiety, not your past, not your pain. Let it be your moment of realignment. When the world fades and eternity becomes near, let it be the holy pause that resets everything. Because when you begin with Him, you don't just survive, you rise. Heavenly rhythm isn't rushed, it flows, it listens, it moves in love and power and patience. And each time you enter into that rhythm through prayer, your soul becomes a little more aligned with eternity. That is the gift of starting with God. Every day you choose to return to the feet of the Father. You are building a life that is anchored, not shaken. You are no longer reacting to the storms of life. You are responding with peace that surpasses all understanding. This kind of peace doesn't come from comfort or predictability. It comes from knowing the one who commands the winds and the waves. And each time you pray first, you step into His stillness. You are being shaped in the quiet places, not the public ones. The hidden moments of surrender are molding your character more than any stage ever could. The way you choose silence with God over noise with the world reveals the depth of your maturity. It's not about being seen, it's about being refined, and the fire of daily devotion is purifying your faith like gold. Hannah's reward didn't come because she demanded it. It came because she remained. She remained when others misunderstood her. She remained when her circumstances didn't change. She remained because her trust wasn't built on timing but on truth. And God honored that kind of faith. You are walking in that same kind of faith today. You are saying, Lord, even if I don't see it yet, I still believe. You're learning to love Him in the waiting and worship Him in the wilderness. You're learning that faith doesn't always shout. Sometimes it simply stays, and staying with God is never wasted. The enemy hates this consistency you're building. He doesn't fear a loud believer as much as a steady one, because a steady believer cannot be manipulated by emotion or swayed by delay. A steady believer is dangerous to darkness, and every time you rise and pray again, heaven takes notice, and so does hell. Your prayers are sowing seeds in spiritual soil. Some will bloom in weeks, others in years, but none will be forgotten. The God who bottles your tears also waters your seeds, and at the appointed time, the harvest will come. You won't miss what God has written in His perfect plan. Prayer first isn't just a habit. It's a way of living in divine flow. It teaches you to align before you act, to listen before you speak, to receive before you perform. You stop being driven by anxiety and begin moving by instruction. You no longer strive for control. You surrender for clarity, and that clarity changes everything. There is divine protection in prayer that you cannot see but must believe. God shields you from battles you didn't even know were coming. He redirects paths that would have led to loss. He closes doors that looked good but held danger. And He opens doors you weren't even looking for. Do not underestimate the reward of spiritual discipline. Each morning you pray as a brick in the house of peace. God is building inside you. It is structure for your soul. It is oxygen for your faith. It is where heaven kisses earth. Jesus didn't teach His disciples to perform. He taught them to pray, because He knew power didn't come from effort. It came from intimacy. And if the Son of God needed prayer to stay aligned, so do we. So do you. And you're doing it well. You may feel overlooked by others, but you are never overlooked by God. Your voice is heard. Your steps are guided. Your needs are known. There is not a single morning you've shown up that has gone unnoticed. The Spirit has recorded every whisper, and the Father has drawn near every time. So continue to rise, continue to kneel, continue to pray before anything else, because the life you're building with God is stronger than any life built without Him. And what you're becoming in the process is more precious than any answer. The reward isn't just in what God gives, it's in who you become by staying near Him. You're becoming less anxious, more rooted, more discerning, more full of quiet joy, You're learning to see through spiritual eyes, not emotional ones. You're finding strength you didn't know you had. And it all began with this, with prayer first. Even when your morning feels rushed, tired, or emotionally scattered, the moment you pause and invite God in, everything begins to shift. Your heart starts to realign with His purpose, your thoughts find due order, and your spirit becomes steady again. Prayer is not about performance but presence, not about perfection but proximity. And every morning that you choose to return to Him, you're declaring who is truly in control. That quiet surrender will guide your feet more than any well-crafted plan ever could. When you wake and kneel before anything else, you are reminding your soul where peace begins. Not in fixing everything around you, but in resting in the One who holds it all. Your burdens may still exist, but they are now wrapped in divine hands. And that changes how you carry them, no longer with fear but with quiet faith. You begin to walk with a confidence that's not loud but deeply rooted. God is not looking for a perfect performance, but a present heart. He listens when your voice trembles, when your words run out, when your eyes say more than your mouth can form. He delights in your showing up, not because He needs it, but because you do. You are shaped by what you kneel before, and every time you begin with Him, you're being shaped by mercy. That transformation may be slow, but it is holy. Some mornings will feel miraculous, and others will feel ordinary, but both are sacred. Both are offerings that rise like incense. Both matter in the kingdom of heaven, because God is not impressed by volume, but by sincerity, not by noise, but by nearness. And your consistent nearness is building an unshakable foundation. The world will try to convince you to start your day with urgency, but heaven invites you to start with peace. Peace that surpasses understanding, that steadies you before the waves come. Peace that prepares your mind for grace instead of reaction. And when that becomes your rhythm, your life becomes unbothered by what once unsettled you, because you've already anchored your spirit. Jesus often slipped away to be alone with the Father, not because He was weak, but because He was wise. Even in His power, He knew the importance of divine connection. You're following that same wisdom each morning you rise in prayer. You are abiding before achieving, and that is the greatest success. Let your prayer life be less about asking and more about abiding. Let it become the conversation you never stop having, the heartbeat beneath your to-do list. God wants to meet you in the middle of your coffee, your driving, your quiet moments before anyone else wakes. He walks beside you not just in church but in laundry rooms and hallways and ordinary living. That's where holiness is lived out. Your first thoughts of the day shape everything else. Will they be shaped by worry, or will they be shaped by worship? Will they be driven by fear, or led by faith? You get to decide, and your decision matters more than you realize. Each morning prayer becomes a shield, invisible but powerful. You may not see the battles it's protecting you from, but the victory is being written in unseen ink. God is redirecting things you never knew were coming. He is canceling assignments of the enemy before they ever reach your door, and all because you chose Him first. The devil loses power over your day when you start it with surrender. You've already declared your loyalty, your source, your strength. He may try to whisper lies, but your ears are tuned to truth. He may try to plant fear, but your heart is full of peace, because your eyes are on the One who never fails. Hannah's story reminds us that persistence births promise. She could have stopped after disappointment, but she came back again, and that coming back changed everything. So come back, even if yesterday felt dry. Come back, because God meets faithful hearts. Let prayer be your morning language. Let praise be your posture. Let quiet surrender be your strategy. And let peace be the fruit that follows you into every room. Because you didn't start the day alone, you started it with God. When you wake up and choose to seek God before anything else, you are breaking patterns that once controlled you. You are saying no to fear before it even speaks, and yes to peace before the world can interrupt. This daily choice to pray first may feel small, but it is a mighty act of resistance against spiritual forgetfulness. It trains your soul to rise in remembrance, not reaction, and it draws the attention of heaven every single time. God sees what others don't. The quiet moments when you whisper His name before checking your phone. the gentle pause before the rush. He honors the unseen, he strengthens you in silence, and he writes your devotion into the story of your becoming. Each new morning is an invitation to intimacy, a fresh chance to hear his voice in the stillness and carry it into the noise. When you start in his presence, everything that follows is filtered through grace, and even the hard things lose their power to shake you, because you are no longer moving alone. You carry the covering of a prayed-up spirit, a spirit that has already bowed before the King before facing the crowd, a heart that has already surrendered its fears before taking a single step. And that kind of preparation doesn't just protect you, it transforms you. It makes you ready for anything, because you've already chosen the one who holds everything. Jesus told his disciples to watch and pray, so they would not fall into temptation. And that instruction still echoes into our mornings today. Prayer is not just comfort, it is protection. It's how we see the attack before it lands, and how we learn to walk in victory, not in reaction. You may not feel like a warrior when you're sitting quietly with your Bible open, but in the spirit you are fierce. You are taking territory. You are planting seeds of peace that will grow into strong trees of wisdom. You are lighting a fire that darkness cannot extinguish, and heaven knows your name. Prayer keeps you from losing yourself in a world that constantly pulls at your identity. It keeps you centered, rooted, grounded in who God says you are. It reminds you that you are chosen, beloved, anointed, not by performance but by grace. And each morning it gently speaks this truth again, until it becomes louder than the lies. Every sacred routine shapes your spiritual resilience. Whether it's a 5-minute devotion or an hour-long intercession, God breathes on it. He multiplies the time you give. He stretches your awareness of Him throughout the day. And He walks with you in ways that surprise your heart. There is no such thing as a wasted morning when it begins with God. Even on days when you're tired, distracted, or discouraged, your showing up matters. Because love that returns again and again, even in weakness, is powerful. And God meets you there, not with judgment, but with joy. Always joy. The discipline of morning prayer becomes the delight of daily companionship. Over time, it stops feeling like a duty and starts feeling like home. You begin to crave that quiet space where His voice is the clearest, where His Spirit whispers comfort and clarity, and where your heart is reset before the world has a chance to shape it. You will see the fruit of this in ways you didn't expect. In how you respond to pressure, in how you forgive more easily, in how you choose peace when offense knocks at your door, and in how your heart stays soft even in a hardened world. Morning by morning, God is drawing you deeper, not just into prayer, but into transformation. He is not just after your time, He is after your trust. He is shaping you into someone who looks like Jesus, even when no one is watching. And that transformation always begins in stillness. Your morning prayer isn't just a whisper into the void. It's a declaration to the heavens. It says, "I know where my help comes from." It says, "Before I run to the world, I run to the Lord." And every time you say it, the atmosphere around you shifts, because you are living like someone who remembers who God is. So keep rising, keep choosing Him first, keep letting the fire of your morning prayer light the path ahead, for you are being strengthened, day by day, in ways that will carry you through every valley and every victory, and heaven is smiling every time you begin. You have walked faithfully through the stillness, through the silence, through the secret places of surrender. You have chosen again and again to begin with God, even when you didn't see the fruit right away. That kind of faithfulness does not go unnoticed in heaven. That kind of obedience becomes a fragrance rising up before the throne. And that kind of love invites the fullness of His glory into your life. Let today be a reminder that your spiritual consistency has eternal consequences. You have watered seeds with your tears, and heaven has recorded every drop. You have pressed in when it was easier to scroll away, and the Lord has leaned close to listen. Every morning you returned, you built an altar of faith that cannot be shaken, and the fire of your devotion has not gone out. Even when life felt messy, God never asked you for perfection, only presence. He never asked you to perform, only to come. And you came. You came with weary hands, trembling prayers, uncertain steps, and He met you every time. There's a holy beauty in choosing God over everything else when the world keeps shouting for your attention. When you choose quiet over chaos, presence over pressure, spirit over striving, you are living a life that echoes into eternity. You are no longer led by what is urgent, but by what is sacred, and sacred things grow slowly, quietly, deeply. That is the rhythm of the kingdom. You may never see all the ways your daily prayers changed your path, but one day you'll look back and realize the strength you walk in was built in those morning whispers. You'll realize the peace that now surrounds you was born from surrendered beginnings, and the blessings that now flow are the harvest of hidden faith. This is what it means to walk with God. Your mornings became a covenant, not a contract of demands, but a relationship of trust. You didn't just ask God to change your life, you gave Him permission to change your heart. You didn't just seek blessings, you sought the one who blesses. And in doing so, you found something far greater than results. You found rest. The prayer that once felt like routine has become your revival. The silence that once scared you now feels like sanctuary. The God you once called on in panic is now the God you walk with in peace. You are no longer chasing answers, you are dwelling in presence. And that is more than enough. Never forget how powerful it is to start with God. Never let convenience replace connection. Never let routine become religion without relationship, because these sacred beginnings will shape holy endings, and what begins in surrender ends in glory. You've created a spiritual rhythm that aligns you with divine flow. This is what it means to abide in Him, not once, not sometimes, but daily. You've tasted the sweetness of first love again and again. You've discovered that the Lord is not just God of your crisis, but God of your calendar, and He is worthy of the first breath, the first thought, the first prayer. The same way Hannah's story ended with joy, your journey will end with praise. There will be songs where there were once sighs. There will be testimonies where there were once tears. There will be miracles where there was once waiting. Because God never forgets a heart that puts Him first. So rise one more time with reverence. Set your face toward heaven again. Let your soul bow low in love. Let your lips whisper one last prayer for today. And believe with all your heart, He hears. You are now walking in a new level of grace, a deeper depth of trust, a broader width of peace, a higher height of worship, and a future that has been touched by the hand of God. You didn't just build a morning routine, you built an altar. You didn't just create a habit, you created a legacy. You didn't just start your day, you started a new way of living, and the heavens rejoiced over every yes. So now, let your final word echo with truth. Amen.